Hi, it's Darnell with Whale of Recipes. Today I'm going to be cooking up some marble bread using the Zojirushi Virtuoso Breadmaker. And they give a recipe for making marble bread. It's a combination of like white and chocolate bread together. So we're going to make that up. We're going to use their recipe and see how that turns out. So let's get cooking of some marble bread right now. Alright, so there's a good number of ingredients to go through. I basically have the bake pan for the bread machine out here on the side. You always want to make sure you got the paddles pointing the same way, so I have them both pointing that way. You want them pointing the same way so that your loaf comes out evenly. Although this is just the initial phases, this isn't the ending parts, where, you know, it's even more critical to have them pointing the same way. It's general practice. Always good to have them pointing whatever direction you got them in, pointing the same way. If one's pointing this way, have the other one pointing that way. One's pointing that way, get the other one pointing that way. Just have them pointing the same direction. But the first ingredient I'm going to put in, I've got 300 ml of water. So just pouring that water on in there. Our next ingredient is 4 1/4 cups of bread flour. So just pouring that on in. The next ingredient is 5 tablespoons of sugar. So I'm just going to basically get 5 tablespoons in here. And when I put them in, I'm going to put them some on this edge and about half on this edge on the inside. Usually putting things on the edges evenly along the just side, evenly on both sides, helps to just ensure that the loaf turns out. You know, that also helps ensure things turn out nice and even without things rising too much or too little on either side. So just going to continue with that on both sides here. The next ingredient is 2 tablespoons of whole milk powder. So I'm getting my whole milk powder out of here and going to also put that, you know, 1 tablespoon on this side, 1 tablespoon over on that side there. The next ingredient is 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. So going to get that out of here. I do want to mention, nothing in this video is sponsored. This is just stuff that I personally like. So, you know, ingredients, products, or whatever, just my personal preference. The next ingredient is 2 1/2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. This butter has been not melted, but just softened, and just put the chunks in on each side, and so I'll just continue with that. And I will mention, you don't want to put the whole, even though it's softened, you don't want to put the whole 2 1/2 tablespoons in all in one clump. You want to kind of break it up into larger chunks and just put those chunks in on each side like that. Alright, so the next ingredient is my bread machine yeast, which I'm going to stick into the little well that I made. So just going to take 2 level teaspoons and stick them on in there. Alright, so now that I've got all the ingredients in, just going to put the bake pan in here. And I'm going to set it to program and have it just do kneading for 20 minutes. And I'll bring you back once the kneading is done. Alright, so things are all done with the kneading there. I'm just going to take a little flour and just put it here on this pad to be able to manipulate the dough. And I've got my dough cutter here, so it's going to be just cutting it into a couple of balls of dough once I get it out of here. Here we have it. Get this on out. There we go. Now you're supposed to make it equal. I'm not going to do a true weight measure of evenness, although you should. I'm just going to eyeball and cut because that's just how I do things. So got them cut in half there. I'm just going to basically make a couple of balls of dough. Rolling it up with my hands here, just making a ball. I'm going to set this dough ball back here. I got a bowl back there that it's in. And this other one is just kind of roll it up into a ball. And also making my cocoa paste. So the ingredients for the cocoa paste are back here. This is 3 tablespoons of basically unsweetened 100% cocoa powder. I got 2 tablespoons of water and a teaspoon of oil. You're supposed to use a vegetable oil. I'm using a extra light olive oil for my oil. So just going to put the ingredients together and mix them very well. Alright, so I'm putting this dough ball in there, and I've got my cocoa paste that I've tried to mix things together pretty well, but basically you want your cocoa paste mixed very well and then to basically pour it on in there. And you know, a whisk was good for getting it started, but you probably just want to use, you know, like a paddle, like something that you can use as kind of like a paddle mixer to mix this stuff, because it gets really thick after you start mixing it in good. So now I'm just going to take my cocoa paste. It's so thick I have to use a spoon. I'm just going to basically take that and just start putting it on in there, right on top of the dough ball. And this will basically make a chocolate dough ball once it's all done. So just going to finish getting this scooped in there. Alright, so I've got the cocoa paste in there on the half of the dough. So I'm going to close up. I'll just cover this one up, you know, just so it can set. But I'm going to program the bread machine now to basically do a 10-minute knead. Then it's going to do shape for 1 hour. And then I'm going to pull it at that point and continue. So I'm going to go ahead and program things, and then I'll bring you on back. And I will mention, for after that shape stage, there's going to be a 45-minute rise, then a second rise for 25 minutes, then a third rise for 1 hour. Then it's going to bake for an hour, and we'll see what we get. But there's some more steps to do in, you know, all of that before we get there. So for now, I'm just going to program things, let it do its kneading, do its shape, and then we'll get it out and we'll continue. Okay, so the shape time ended, so I'm just going to basically open up so that things pause, and you can see my chocolate loaf. I think if I put the chocolate on the bottom first and then put the dough in, that it probably would have mixed maybe a little better, but since it's marble bread, I don't think it really matters too much. But we'll go ahead and get things out of here. Things are pretty gooey, doughy feeling getting it out. So this is now our chocolate loaf, and our white loaf has been over here in a bowl just kind of hanging out, and it rose some. So from this point, what we want to do now, I have to basically cut the chocolate loaf and the white dough ball in half. So just doing my usual eyeball technique, no super even measure. That one might be a little bigger, but we're going to run with that. So just going to cut this one in half. And I know, you know, plenty of ways to ensure they're accurate, but it just doesn't matter to me. It just doesn't. So let's go ahead, and what we want to do now, I want to start rolling these out. I'm going to have basically like a rolled out white and a rolled out chocolate, and what I'm going to do is put the chocolate on top of the white, and you want to roll these out to be 4 inches by 12 inches. So Just gonna go ahead and do that here. And as I'm getting things rolled out, I'm just kind of every now and then opening and closing the door so that it doesn't, auto shut off the program that's already in motion out of boredom, because if you just kind of leave it idle too long, I don't want it to just, stop. So, and this isn't exactly 12 by 4, these two, but basically what's supposed to be done here is to put chocolate on top of the, I guess you could say vanilla or white. It's really white. And then you roll, you make a roll. And after you roll it up, you're supposed to basically seal the end up real good. So I'm just kind of rolling and sealing the end up real good, best I can. Then you're supposed to take it with that pinch side down, and you're supposed to put it into the bake pan. So I'm just going to stick that on in there like that. And then do the same for the next one. Alright, we got our second one here. Just going to take it and roll it up. I guess this is kind of like a chocolate swirl roll. I'll just pinch this in to seal off the end of it. Alright, so I've got it all sealed off on that end. So I'm just going to go ahead and just stick that one in and just have to smash it in beside its neighbor there. So those are both in there. And close up. Do have the kneading rods in there, but basically going to just let things go from this point. And I'll bring you back when it's all done, but now it basically does all the rises that I mentioned earlier and does the 1 hour bake after the rises, 45, 25 an hour rise and 1 hour bake. So I'll bring you back. Alright, so the bread, marble bread, looks like it's good and done. So I got my heat resistant gloves on. I'm just going to move this up so that the door doesn't tap my cabinets. Well, it still did a little, but okay. So here's the finished loaf. You can see, it's got marbling. But let's get it on out. I'm going to set it here. I've got a cooling rack here that can set the bread on. Alright, let's have a look at that now. Alright, so that's how the finished product looks. It does have, some swirling of the chocolate and vanilla. During the different rise events, the bread machine does do a little kneading with the kneading rods, just a little bit. So that's why you see, things moved around a bit while it was in there, but not too much. It's not a lot of kneading during those rise phases, just a little bit. Just to mix it a little. So it looks pretty nice to me. What I like to do from this point is let it set overnight, because if you cut into it now, it's so soft it's kind of, it's fluffy and soft. It's just too soft almost. I like to just let it set out for maybe 30 minutes, bag it up, and then cut it tomorrow, after it's set overnight, just to kind of rest, get just a little firmer. So I'll slice it up tomorrow, and we'll do some taste testing then. Alright, so it's the next morning and my bread, it's gotten just a little firmer, and so I'm going to go ahead and slice the bread up here. Alright, so we got things all sliced up. So when I take a slice of bread off of there, you can see the nice fine marbling. So we got like some perfect marble bread. I'm going to take a slice from the center. I'll enjoy this end cut later. But for taste test purposes, I'm going to get one, out of the inside. So we'll, try this for our taste test. So there we have our completed marble bread. So let's thank the Lord for this and do a taste. Okay, it tastes good. You taste some chocolate in there, and you taste, it tastes like bread with, a hint of chocolate. Is basically how it tastes. Pretty good stuff. Got some more bread stuck in the back of the tooth there. But basically, have some, some fluid with your bread so that you can wash it down easier before you talk. But anyway, it tastes good. It turned out well. The Zojirushi performed like a champ, and I'm very pleased with the outcome there. And a bread machine designed like this with the 2 paddles and all, and one like this can do more things than some other bread machines, or can do well. If you got one that stands upright with 1 paddle, it's not going to be as versatile as one that has 2 paddles and lays the loaf kind of flat. It's just the way it is. It's just not going to be the same. It's just not the same experience. I've used both myself. So, this is why some of us enjoy these types of bread machines versus other bread machines that are less expensive. But as I have said before, if you are interested in making your own bread, get that cheap one first. Learn the ropes. And if you really like it and you really get into it being like your bread and you not going to the store getting bread, then, later on, then you might want to up your game to something more costly. But you don't want to put out the big money to start and, then you don't like it, and, then it's kind of like just sitting on the side and it's money that you just invest in something that collects dust. Get your feet wet first, and then when you're ready to step up your game, step up your game. But with all of that said, the recipe is Zojirushi's. It is not mine. So there will be no printable version on my blog. But if you have a Zojirushi, it is in the recipe book that comes with the cooker. As I said, nothing in this video is sponsored, but I did want to give this a try and demonstrate it to you as well. And the cooker, it does great. It's a great bread machine. So with all that said, you can find other recipes, even for bread machines, on my blog at superwaveovenrecipes.com. You can, if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. You can share it with a friend. You can subscribe. You can hit that notification icon. Also, in the video description are other ways to help this channel. And with all of that said, I wish you and yours good eating.